What's up, everybody? Jason Swenk here. I'm excited. I have a special guest for you, Darby, our own agency scale specialist. He talks to all of our agency owners, and we're going to go and talk about what are the most common issues that he's seeing in the agency industry right now and how you can actually correct them. Because there's a lot of agencies that are reaching plateaus, and we're going to talk about what you can do in order to really blast through that glass ceiling for you. Hey, Darby, welcome to the show.
Hey Jason, how's it going?
It's kind of weird interviewing you.
It's exactly what I was thinking. This feels really weird.
It's very weird. So, for the people that have not talked to you yet, I mean, this is going to be a very weird interview. Just to
Yeah.
prepare, and we'll probably make fun of each other the whole interview. But for people that have not chatted with you yet, tell us who you are.
My name is Darby Copenhaver. I'm the agency scale specialist here. I speak to agency owners day in and day out who are, just looking for a leg up or some help or, trying to figure out if working with you is a good idea or not. So I try to usually steer them away, but, they still end up coming once in a while.
It's probably a good decision.
Yeah.
But what is the most common thing or the most common challenge that you've been seeing, when you're chatting with agency owners all over the world?
It's funny. I hear the same phrases come up, time and again on these calls. The analogy of the cobbler's kids who has no shoes, in regards to people just not really focusing on doing all the amazing things they do for their clients for themselves and how that just so often is overlooked. And I hear so frequently just people have plateaued and they just have reached a point where they don't know what they don't know. And that turn of phrase comes up so frequently, so often. It's just, just feeling stuck and feeling like you just can't figure out what comes next and you don't know where to go to find out.
Is it because they're too busy,
I
or
think that
what's the root of it that we're finding out?
that's a tough answer. I think that's part of it, and I think that it's just a lack of prioritization sometimes. I think that I always something I always say to my kids, which is silly to bring it up in this context, but there's a difference between making time and having time, right? And the things that are most important in life and the things that are most important to you and to the benefit of whatever it is that you want to accomplish, you have to make time. There's always time if you make it. And that's something that I always say. And I think that people are they're very giving people, right? They want to do the best they can for their clients. They want to do the best they can for the people that they work with. And so they put themselves last. And I think that is a big root of the issue is they're so dedicated to doing great things for the people that they are obligated to.
Yeah. So, what is the solution? Is a solution saying no to, or having more clarity? What's a solution that we find that's working, for all these busy agency owners with no shoes?
It's their kids with no shoes. They have shoes
They
usually.
have shoes.
But
Okay. Okay.
yes, I think the solution is a few things. I think that yeah, clarity is most important, right? I think that so many people I talk to have the fear of niching down, that they're missing out on something, or that if they go a certain direction, that they're leaving so many other opportunities behind, and that pulls you in so many different directions at once, and that makes things much more difficult. I think that that's a big part of it, and I think that just really dedicating the purpose and the intent to improving what you need to work on for yourself and for the agency is the biggest thing. I just like I said before, it's the prioritization of of reaching your goals is just as important as reaching the goals for the people you work with.
Yeah. I mean, we say this in the mastermind all the time. It's like, what are you going to say no to this year? What are you going to say no to this quarter? How are you going to structure your week, your day? How are we going to do this? And you'll get so much more time back. Or how are you going to delegate this? And I find too, people struggle with delegating because they may not know the outcome that they actually want in trying to figure it out. What are You know, you've been chatting with agency owners for the past 8 months now. Um, what are the aha moments when they actually start seeing some results that you've been seeing?
I think wow. I think the biggest aha moment often comes with not capitalizing on the existing relationships you have, right? Not taking the time and really having a focused and dedicated intentional effort to recognize opportunities with your existing and previous clients for that matter, and growing those revenue streams. There's so much low hanging fruit there so many times, and just it's very it's not structured. People are doing it, but they don't realize they're doing it. Or their clients are coming to them saying, "Hey, I noticed that you could help me with this. Can we have that discussion?" But they're not being intentional about it. They're not going after those opportunities. They're not going to the clients and saying, "Hey, I recognize here that you have a great opportunity to really capitalize on a much larger return on investment if you would just add this little or do this little thing differently." And not empowering the team to recognize those opportunities and go after them, and not being intentional about it themselves. They're leaving a lot of things behind. And I think that's on the calls that we have one of the biggest aha moments that we see frequently, that man, we're doing it, but we're not doing it right. And there's so much more opportunity here if we did. I think that, and I think that just being dedicated to creating content and building authority is something that's very much overlooked and being underutilized. It goes back to, like you said, with having that clarity around really who you are as an agency and who is the right client and what is your offer, and then really drilling down into that and building authority around that and providing content of value. Not just going and creating blog posts that are generalized information about marketing in general, but providing something that's content or value driven for your ideal client, to where they can really start to build a connection and a relationship and a trust with you over time that will in turn relate to better opportunities.
One of the debates that we get asked a lot, in the masterminds are, should I brand my agency or should I brand me personally, for the agency? And when you have that clarity of who you're going after for that agency, what are your thoughts? I've never really asked you, like, do you think it's better to brand the agency, or do you think it's better to, brand the actual, owners?
I feel like they're one and the same to an extent, but personal branding is so important because people buy from people, right? People don't buy from companies or corporations, and people don't trust companies and corporations. But you can establish trust by personalizing things, right? By having something that's, if you look at all the commercials you see on TV with, Progressive Insurance and Flow, and the lizard for Geico, there's always a humanizing you know personification of the agency or the business that people can relate to. And I think that that is important with what we do as well, that you have to establish yourself as a person of trust. And people have this, they get caught up in this, well, if they're buying from me, then they're going to want me to do everything, right? But that's not the way the world works. And I think that that's a misnomer. And for people to think that they can't brand themselves because then they're going to be expected to do everything is not a realistic expectation. Maybe on a small local market level, that there is a slight thinking in that regard. But I think overall that's just a misconception that people need to get past and realize the importance of making that person to person connection with their ideal clients is what's going to bring people to their agency.
I always bring up the model that Gary Vaynerchuk does. Like
Mhm.
he's the best at branding himself. And then people go to his companies like Vander Media. Like, he's not going to work, on your agency project. I don't care how much money you have. He's not, and you probably don't want him. He's so ADD, and you know, like it would be probably pretty bad. Or even, I think it's really, at the end of the day, people want to understand and know the leader. Think of Steve Jobs, right? Elon Musk. People are investing in the leader and having confidence that their team will do what they actually say or what they represent. And I think that's really important to get over that mindset of they'll want me. I was chatting with one of our mastermind members this morning, and he was mentioning that he was holding back on doing video for so long, personal branding himself, right? And he said a very large airline that everybody would know, probably that flies out of Atlanta, um, contacted them and said, I want you to do an RFP. He was like, I'm not going to do an RFP. And they actually called him back. And literally, when they had the meeting, they were like, okay, we want you to come in and just ask, the board's going to ask you some questions. And literally got to the meeting. They were like, oh, no, we're done. And he was like, oh, crap, I lost this. And he's like, no, we're done. We're going to go with you. We've watched all your videos. And I just thought that was pretty cool.
Well, it's funny too. Another mastermind member that we have that has a really popular YouTube channel has been able to really find that to be a huge source of staffing his agency. He has people that have been following him and learning from him for so long. And especially today with how difficult it has been everywhere for people to find quality, affordable talent to come in and help you grow and scale, because that's the biggest thing when you get to a certain level is you have to have the people to fill the roles. And for him to have been able to leverage his YouTube channel in such a way that he has people finding him and coming and wanting to work for him has been such a huge win. And it's just such a cool thing that, and again, it's the humanizing aspect. It's, they see that he represents the values and the things that they hold to be true to themselves. So they say, wow, that's not only does this guy really know what he's doing, he has a great agency, but it's somebody that I want to hang out with and would want to work for. So it's just another testament to how important that is to represent what you do on a personal level.
And share some personal things, right? Like, I've always shared kind of our adventures that we go on or my passion for the mountains. And you'll attract more of those people that like adventure or the mountains rather than people in the suit and tie that, like to do other things. I don't know. I'm not a suit or tie person. I have nothing against people that dress up in a suit and tie. We have some mastermind members that dress so fancy, and I'm like, how do you do that?
One in particular.
Yes. Oh, I love him. I'm like, man, you're the best dressed person ever. I just don't know how to do that.
No. Yeah, our conversations are not very, suit and tie appropriate sometimes, but that's the thing is that's the whole point is, we want to attract the people that will connect well with what we do and the manner in which we do it, right? Because that's a benefit to everyone is having that good fit. And by representing yourself authentically through everything that you do, it just eliminates that possibility of having a misalignment when you create a relationship and somebody gets into something and realizes, wow, this is not at all what I expected. And that's a terrible situation to be in. So by just being transparent and being who you are, and I have a bad habit of over talking a lot, which I'm sure you're gathering here, but again, that's who I am. And I don't want to curb that because I always want to be who I am so that there are no surprises or shocks when you really get to know the real me.
Yeah. I just think about so many of the agency owners we've chatted with over the years that struggled with, they felt like they reached that plateau. I'm kind of bringing it full circle, right? They reached this plateau. They really didn't have that focus of where they're going, but then they started getting that clarity. And the clarity to say no to the things that they shouldn't be doing anymore. And then being able to focus on the things like personal branding, which will bring more business to the agency. I'm thinking, Chris Dwyer of Ranking or, Corey of Clixie, or Zach Williams of Venveo, all these people that fought us forever to create a damn mastermind, or not a mastermind, to create a podcast and to put themselves out there and interview these amazing people. It's their number one source of leads. And that's, if you're listening to this, I want you to think about what are the things to say no to? What are the things that you need to get more clarity on? And how can you brand yourself more in the organization or brand your people too in order to really catapult you to that next stage in your agency.
And just kind of like I mentioned before about that fear of missing out on opportunities when you start to go that direction. Just with our mastermind, we talk about obviously that when you're around other people that are doing the things that we know to work, and you see them having those successes, and you see that it is a scary step, but yet even though you know it works, it's very hard to take that next step. But when you're surrounded by people who are encouraging you to do so and sharing their successes with you and saying, I did it and 2 years ago, and now look where I am, based on those decisions, and having the courage to say no to those things, and it goes in an order for a reason, right? We talk about clarity, and we talk about the building of authority, and then we talk about getting into that point where you're really just laser focused and you know the right things to say no to. And even though they're maybe lucrative opportunities, in the long term, they're not what's best for you or for the team or for the agency as a whole. And having that understanding and getting to that point really gives you just a lot of freedom internally as well, just because you don't feel so tethered and spread out, and you just have a lot more comfort in who you are and where you're going. And then everybody else can get on board with that too, because now you're sharing in a singular vision of the direction of the agency.
Exactly. Well, this has all been amazing, Darby. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think the audience would benefit from?
I really don't think so. I'm not really
I
good
have
at
to
talking.
always end on the podcast with that question.
I
So.
know, and I knew it was coming, but I usually rehearse things in my head to the point where I drive myself crazy. But I didn't do it with that for some reason, and I probably should have. So I would just say that if anything, just take risks, right? Everything in life involves some degree of risk. And honestly, everything in life, anytime you make a decision to say yes, you're saying no to an infinite number of other things. And if you look at it with that perspective, that the things you're saying yes to are really important, but the things you're saying no to are just as important as well. And really just having the forethought to make sure that you're taking into consideration, what are you really giving up and what do you really have to gain?
Yeah. I love it. Great advice. And the funny thing, I'll just call out everyone that I've ever interviewed. They always know that question is coming. And they always start off with, no, you asked me everything. But then they always give us an answer, which I love. It's always hilarious.
I felt like I had to say something. If I just left it blank there, I feel like it just looked like a ding dong or something. So I feel like I have to
Well,
fill the void somehow.
you don't have to answer or disanswer to not look like a ding dong. So
I am a ding dong. So
you
like
are
I
a
said,
ding dong. Oop. Well, Darby just froze up, but Darby, thanks so much for coming on the show. We're going to have you back multiple times, and I think the next time when we have you on, we're going to talk more about sales. And if you guys want to be around amazing agency owners, you want to be around me, Darby, and a lot of my other amazing team, I would love for all of you to reach out to us and say, man, I might be able to, I might need your help. And we might be able to help you figure out what are the yeses, what are the nos, how do you position yourself, how do you scale your agency faster. Reach out to us. We'd love to help you. And until next time, have a swank day.